on the rooftops of Hong Kong, far from the eyes of the police. Young martial artists gathered in secret. They called these fights Baymo. No rules, no referees, just two fighters and the truth. Bruce Lee was 18 years old when he stepped onto one of these rooftops. His opponent was bigger, more experienced, and within seconds, Bruce was bleeding. What happened next would become one of the most important moments in martial arts history. But here is what nobody tells you about this story. It was not the victory that changed Bruce Lee. It was the moment right before, when he almost quit. There is a myth about Bruce Lee. People think he was born untouchable, that he never struggled, that he walked into every fight knowing he would win. But that is not true. Before the movies, before the fame, before he became a legend, Bruce Lee was just a young man trying to prove himself. And the rooftops of Hong Kong were his classroom. Today, I am going to tell you about the secret fights that shaped Bruce Lee. The underground battles that tested his skills, challenged his confidence, and ultimately led him to create an entirely new philosophy of combat. This is not about violence. This is about transformation. This is about what happens when a young martial artist faces his deepest fears and refuses to back down. Let us begin. Hong Kong in the 1950s was a city divided. British colonial rule controlled the streets, and one of their many restrictions targeted something unexpected: Kung Fu challenges. The British authorities saw organized martial arts contests as dangerous. They worried about public disturbances, gang activity, and violence spilling into the streets, so they banned them. But here is the thing about martial artists. They still needed to test themselves. Training in a school is one thing. Practicing forms and techniques with friendly partners teaches you the basics. But there is a question that haunts every serious martial artist. Does this actually work? You cannot answer that question by hitting a wooden dummy. You cannot answer it by sparring with your classmates who know all your moves. You can only answer it one way: by facing a real opponent who wants to defeat you. And so, away from the eyes of the authorities, a secret tradition emerged. Baymo. The word roughly translates to comparison of skills. These were informal matches held in hidden locations throughout Hong Kong. Rooftops were popular because they offered privacy. Back alleys worked too, sometimes even private homes. The rules varied depending on who organized the match. Some had basic guidelines to prevent serious injury. Others were more open. But one thing remained constant. These were real tests, real confrontations, real consequences. And for young martial artists like Bruce Lee, they were irresistible. Now, before we continue, I need to address something important. Over the years, stories about Bruce Lee's rooftop fights have grown. Exaggerated. Some accounts claim he fought in hundreds of these matches. That he was an unstoppable force who challenged every martial artist in Hong Kong. But this is not accurate. According to people who actually knew Bruce Lee during this period. People like Wong, his senior training partner and close friend. The reality was different. Bruce participated in only a handful of these Baymo matches. Not hundreds. Not dozens. A handful. Why does this matter? Because the truth is actually more impressive than the myth. Bruce Lee did not need hundreds of fights to learn what he needed to learn. He extracted maximum wisdom from minimum experience. Each rooftop encounter taught him something valuable. Each challenge revealed a weakness he needed to address. Each victory and each struggle became a lesson that shaped his future philosophy. Quality over quantity. This is one of the first lessons we can take from Bruce Lee's journey. He did not seek fights for the sake of fighting. He sought understanding, growth, truth, and the rooftops of Hong Kong gave him exactly that. Think about this for a moment. In an age before YouTube, before instructional videos, before mixed martial arts gyms on every corner, how did you know if your training was effective? You had to test it. For real. Against someone who was trying to defeat you. That takes courage. That takes honesty. And that is exactly what the young Bruce Lee was searching for. Among all of Bruce Lee's rooftop encounters, one stands above the rest. The details have been passed down through his closest friends and training partners. And the story reveals something crucial about who Bruce Lee really was. His opponent came from a rival kung fu school. This was not unusual. Baymo matches often pitted practitioners from different styles against each other. Each school believed their methods were superior. Each wanted to prove it. But this particular opponent was different. He was skilled, experienced, confident. And when Bruce Lee faced him on that rooftop, something unexpected happened. Bruce hesitated, not because he was afraid of getting hurt. Bruce had been in plenty of street fights. He knew what it felt like to take a punch. No, this was something deeper. This was doubt. For the first time, Bruce was facing someone who might actually be better than him. Someone whose skills were undeniable. Someone who looked at Bruce like he was just another challenger to be defeated. And in that moment of hesitation, Bruce got caught. The first exchange did not go well. His opponent landed clean shots. Bruce took significant contact to his face. The kind of contact that makes you question everything. When the first round ended, Bruce was shaken. His eye was already swelling. His nose was damaged. And his confidence was crumbling. This was the moment of truth. Here is where most people would quit. They would make an excuse. Claim an injury. Walk away with their ego bruised, but their story intact. But Bruce Lee was not most people. As he stood there, struggling with doubt, something happened. Encouragement. His friends and training partners were there. They had seen him train. They knew what he was capable of. And they reminded him, this is just one moment. One round. One setback. It does not define you. What you do next defines you. Bruce Lee took a breath. And something shifted inside him. The doubt did not disappear. The fear did not vanish. But Bruce made a choice. He was going to fight anyway. He was going to give everything he had, regardless of the outcome. He was going to find out, once and for all, what he was truly made of. The second round began, and Bruce Lee was a different fighter. What happened next has become legendary in martial arts circles. Bruce Lee stopped thinking. He stopped hesitating. He stopped doubting. He simply moved. His Wing Chun training took over. Months and years of practice with Ip Man crystallized into pure action. Chain punches. For those unfamiliar, chain punches are a signature technique of Wing Chun Kung Fu. They are rapid, continuous strikes delivered in a straight line toward the opponent's center line. When executed properly, they create overwhelming pressure. The opponent cannot block one punch without another already arriving. It is like trying to stop a waterfall with your hands. Bruce unleashed this technique with everything he had. His opponent, who had looked so confident moments before, suddenly found himself overwhelmed. He could not keep up with the speed. He could not find an answer to the relentless pressure, and then it was over. Bruce Lee won. His opponent was unable to continue. The rooftop battle was finished. But the real victory had happened minutes earlier. The real victory was the moment Bruce Lee chose to continue despite his fear. The moment he decided that finding the truth was more important than protecting his ego. That choice, that mindset, that willingness to face discomfort and keep going anyway. That is what separated Bruce Lee from everyone else. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you faced a challenge that scared you? When was the last time you stepped into uncertainty, knowing you might fail, and did it anyway? Bruce Lee's rooftop fights were not about violence. They were about this, about testing yourself, about finding out who you really are when things get difficult. Bruce Lee walked away from that rooftop with more than just a victory. He walked away with knowledge. First, he learned about hesitation. Those first moments of doubt had cost him dearly. He had given his opponent an advantage by second-guessing himself. In a real confrontation, hesitation could be the difference between success and failure. This realization would later become central to his philosophy. Jeet Kune Duo, the way of the intercepting fist, is built on the idea of immediate action. Do not wait. Do not hesitate. Move before your opponent can fully develop their attack. Bruce learned this lesson the hard way on that rooftop. Second, he learned about adaptation. When the first round went poorly, Bruce did not keep doing the same thing. He adjusted. He changed his approach. He found what worked and committed to it fully. This willingness to adapt, to change strategies when something is not working, became another cornerstone of his philosophy. Third, he learned about pressure. The chain punch technique worked because it overwhelmed his opponent. It did not give the other fighter time to think, to plan, to counter. Bruce realized that continuous forward pressure was one of the most effective strategies in combat. Keep attacking. Keep moving forward. Do not let your opponent recover. And fourth, perhaps most importantly all, he learned about himself. He learned that he could take a hit and keep going. That he could face doubt and overcome it. That his skills, forged through countless hours of practice, would be there when he needed them. This confidence, earned through real experience, not given through empty praise, became the foundation for everything that followed. These rooftop encounters were not just about winning fights. They were about discovering truth. Bruce Lee was not interested in theories. He was not satisfied with techniques that looked impressive, but failed under pressure. He wanted to know what actually worked. And the only way to find out was through testing. This scientific approach to martial arts was revolutionary at the time. Most schools taught tradition. They taught forms that had been passed down for generations. They demanded respect for the old ways and discouraged questioning. But Bruce Lee questioned everything. Why do we stand this way? Does it actually help? Why do we punch like this? Is there a more efficient method? Why do we train these techniques? Have they been tested in real situations? The rooftops of Hong Kong gave him answers. Some techniques worked exactly as taught. Others needed modification. Some failed completely and had to be discarded. Bruce kept what was useful. He rejected what was not. And he remained open to adding new elements from other sources. This philosophy: take what is useful, discard what is useless, add what is specifically your own, came directly from experiences like these rooftop battles. It was not created in a classroom. It was forged in real confrontation. There is one more lesson from these rooftop encounters that deserves attention. Bruce Lee learned to face his fears. This might seem strange. Bruce Lee, afraid. But fear is human. Everyone experiences it. The question is not whether you feel fear. The question is what you do when fear arrives. On that rooftop, when his opponent landed those early shots, Bruce felt fear. He felt doubt. He felt the urge to protect himself by giving up. But he did not give in. He acknowledged the fear. He felt it fully. And then he acted anyway. This is the definition of courage. Not the absence of fear, but action in spite of fear. Bruce Lee would carry this lesson for the rest of his life. He would face challenges that seemed impossible. He would pursue dreams that others called unrealistic. He would push boundaries that everyone said could not be pushed. And every time fear arose, he remembered that rooftop. He remembered that he had faced fear before, and he had won. The rooftops of Hong Kong are quiet now. The secret Baymo matches have faded into history. The young martial artists who tested themselves under the stars have grown old or passed on. But the lessons remain. Bruce Lee's journey through these underground challenges shaped everything he became. They taught him about hesitation and the cost of doubt. They taught him about adaptation and the power of changing strategies. They taught him about pressure and the effectiveness of relentless forward movement. And they taught him about courage. True courage, which is not about being fearless, but about acting despite your fears. These rooftop battles were not about violence. They were about growth. They were about a young man searching for truth in a world full of untested theories and empty traditions. And what he found on those rooftops, the wisdom he earned through real experience, would eventually revolutionize martial arts forever. Bruce Lee did not become a legend because he was born special. He became a legend because he was willing to test himself, to face his fears, to fail, learn, and try again. That is the real lesson of the rooftop battles. And it is a lesson that applies far beyond martial arts. If this story inspired you, hit that subscribe button and join us for more untold stories about Bruce Lee. Leave a comment below and tell me, what is one fear you have been avoiding? What would happen if you faced it anyway? I read every comment. Thank you for watching. And remember, the obstacle is not in your way. It is the way.